Welcome back, everyone, to the Licalo Elo Finals Season 3. We're going to witness some spectacular mistakes and unpunished blunders that will unfold in the 64 squares. Now, before you scream at me for not making the 3 previous segments of the low elo, I'm going to make up for that and instead record the semifinals and the finals in one episode. That's because I just couldn't. I certainly did not have a lot of time. I had to record 100 days in hardcore Minecraft, which took a lot of my time, which you can always check out right after this video, link in the description. But yeah, I had a lot of time. I didn't have a lot of time in my hands, and I wish I had more. But here we are. We're going to make up for it with Chris and Tito in the finals. And Chris, a fellow countryman, and he won. He won the tournament. I'll show you how he did it. Which basically means that both of my real-life buddies, Dimnos Chess and Chris, have actually won Lika title, thingies, and I just haven't, which is embarrassing. Maybe in like 3 years I'll get the high-low one, who knows. Anyway, with that aside, let's go ahead with the video, and if you like it, maybe hit a sub, maybe do that, and join the Discord in the description. You never know, maybe you want to do it, okay, it's okay. But yeah, let's roll the tape, let's go straight to the video. Let's hope we do not cry from the pain this is going to cause us. Of course, we need to start with an appetizer for this, so we begin with Chris versus Red Mouse. Red Mouse has the black pieces, and Chris has the white ones. Let's begin. E4, E5, Knight C3, a Vienna game, simple stuff. Every beginner plays this at some point or continuously throughout their playing chess career. We have a Vienna Gambit here, pretty good stuff. Bishop C5. And just f takes c5, which is, well, one of the moves, but, mostly people play this now, which is just the standard Vienna Gambit, but, Chris plays it safe. Because if you take, then there's simply just going to be a fork. But, however, Red Mouse is way smarter than that, so Queen e7, oh, so far so good. The better move according to the engine is d6, so you could get more pieces into the game at a cost of a pawn. That's a little complex for these brains. Queen e7 is the okay approach, and probably what we'll play. Knight f3. Okay, the pawn simply hang. You cannot defend the pawn, so okay, Queen e7 makes sense. Knight takes c5. Knight takes c5, though, is not that great. You need to be patient and create the attacking possibilities with your pieces, and something like this, for example. I mean, this ain't good now because you can just block. So yeah, you need to not constantly make trades, because if you constantly make trades, you don't have to, you're gonna end up in this game. So it's -1 because if your queen takes, white has no pieces in the game and no easy development. And after queen f3, which looks nice, and your only idea is bishop c4, you just get hit with knight f6. Now there's nothing. Bishop c4 anyway, however. And now the winning move, which is basically unfindable, is c6 to build up for d5 or b5. So it's a double threat. So castles instead, fine. That's also a great move. d3, now we're just trying to develop here. b6. But b6 is just not that great. So what you need to focus here is this knight. It's really a bit of a problem here for white, because if they're not careful, you'll be able to, build up a quick c6 and d5 and break open the center, while white's king is still there. So, that's a bonus. But b6, I mean, the bishop just ain't going to develop anywhere, so really it's not that great of a trade. However, that doesn't matter, because bishop e3, and simply we have bishop b4 here, so we're not taking the trade. Now the engine wants castles, that's not going to happen. Bishop d2 instead. And now the engine wants b5, that's never getting spotted. Bishop b7, and after a3, and the bishop goes back to d6, we have castles on the sword side, which seemingly just blunders the game, because it does. Queen takes h2, that's a free pawn. There's also just, I mean, coming back wasn't that necessary. Might as well just bring a rook to the party. I understand why this rook is bad, according to the engine. Yeah, it's not bad, it's just the engine is a hater. Queen e5, however, I mean, you just go back, fine. What you really are threatening is, I don't know, some bishop c5 business. I don't see anything else. King e2 now, the king keeps moving back to the center after losing a pawn. Rook f2 e8. Chris is under some severe pressure, but somehow this position is almost close to a draw. Don't ask me how that happened. You need to find knight b5, which threatens, the fork, and then you will be able to create your own attack down the pawn. However, you get some sort of compensation. However, that does not get played, and now we're gonna have another trade. Queen g3, however, simply getting a queen trade. Knight to b5. That's just gonna be a free attack on the knight. And after queen takes f3 check and g takes, the position is still shockingly equal for some reason. I don't know what Chris has done here with red mouse. But yeah, now he takes the bishop, and somehow he's no longer that worse anymore. In fact, he's better because of the pawn structure. I mean, what black should have done here is probably sidestep the bishop one square. I know that's hard because of this, but you can counterattack the knight. And after takes, you can actually take and takes and takes and at some point, this looks not great, but black has actually some very good chances in the position, because your structure will not be, destroyed, but fine. We're gonna play with a little bit of a disadvantage here in the center. So now white has to use the bishop pair that they've been given, as well as the double isolated d6 and d7 pawns. Rook f2 e1, and a6, and simply the bishop probably will have to move, and it does move. And b5 now, expanding over here on the queen side. Now white has an advantage, shockingly enough, because of the open g and h files you could use for an attack, and f4, f5 is also an idea. But now the rooks go to the side where they're gonna be strong to the side where they're completely weakened. That's impressive. d5, simply trying to poke on the structure. Rook g1. I don't understand why we decided to go to rook c1 and then we're going back to g1. Okay, fine, fantastic. I guess you wanted the free top engine. I don't understand. a5. And now you just gotta go, I don't know, like a c3 here, so you don't lose the pawn. Or king d2, one of these moves. Neither of them gets played. Instead we have a4, which is the more aggressive option. After this move, black is dead because of this bishop maneuver. King has to move. You can take like the pawns here, and probably take another pawn. I mean, this is not too bad. But yeah, the engine straight up wants this, which is nuts. c3, however, which is not the greatest move on the board. It does throw away basically all the advantages white had in this game, but what does Stockfish know? I mean, this is just a game between 1100s. So yeah, takes, and bishop takes a4, and that b-pawn will be a bit of a liability. That's why the engine is arguing this is a drop. Bishop takes a4, rook takes a4, and d takes a4, and the structure is still fine for white. But it's a little weak because of the b-pawn, right? Also, I don't understand why we couldn't move that rook, but okay, fine. Decisions, I guess. Rook b8, rook b1, but d5, and you probably have to exchange the pawn too in a little bit. E takes d5, that indeed happens, and c4 attacking the knight, and unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, Chris blunders a tactic, which nearly cost him the entire match. This is simply a fork, and you lose a rook. King d2, and this is simply conversion from red mouse. However, unfortunately, it's not great conversion because black has lost all of the advantage they had built on the game. Now, after taking this pawn, now this is extremely imbalanced. 3 pawns versus 3. One structure is severely damaged, and one guy has a bishop instead of a rook, while the other has some passed pawns. However, the reason why this is not over is because kings are very far away. This king is on the center supporting the pawns. And these pawns aren't too fast, but, it's probably going to be black who's winning this after a very long endgame. However, king to c4, that doesn't do white any favors because you're just going to lose time, right? Rook e8, now you need to go back. Bishop f4, counterattacking with rook a8, and by this point, black starts pushing the pawns. And king d5, and this is simply over. Black finally gets the time that they wanted. Chris desperately holds on. I don't know what rook a1 is. Desperately holds on to try and go bishop b5, and king h5, king e4. I mean, it's just a chaos here. Black is completely winning this. And rook g1 check, king f3. All you need to do is literally move 1 square. But unfortunately, red mouse does not make it to the finals because rook g8 and they blunder the maiden one. Fantastic. And Chris goes to the finals. That's the highlight game I have for you. Now let's go to the next game. Alright, for the second game that Chris had to play against red mouse to escape the semifinals is this one. Chris with the black pieces versus Red Mouse with white piece. We have a Sicilian. Sicilian defense is one of the openings I love a lot. Now, recently I've been playing a lot of the French defense, which is a little bit more of my style. However, the fun fact is that the Sicilian defense are a little bit interchangeable sometimes. You can transpose to Sicilian, so I don't have to study, the machinations of knight to f3, and, d5, and, I don't know, knight c3, all these annoying lines, and all that, all that shit, and all that jazz. So yeah, these openings are pretty interchangeable, but Red Mouse proceeds to play the Bowdler attack, which is, if not the worst, one of the worst ways to play against stealing, with the exception of Bishop a6, which I'm surprised it doesn't have a name. Bishop c4 is simply just bad because of the move e6, and, you can play con setup, you can play knight f6, d5, d6. It's not a great setup. Knight f3, and, yeah, I mean, Red Mouse makes me think they try to play an Italian against a Sicilian. That's like trying to fight a gorilla with an orange. The gorilla's gonna destroy you, and probably eat your orange. I don't know. d5, okay, we have the d5 attack. Again, what you want to do here is probably something like a6, to go queen c7, knight f6, d6, the jazz. d5, takes, queen e2 check. We have some interesting stuff here. And a couple moves later, we just have this very awkward-looking position with b3 on the board. Okay, so b3's idea is to just fianchetto the bishop on this diagonal, which could be a long-term liability against black. But knight f6 simply just somehow counters that idea. I don't know how. And now the engine wants d4, which, destroys the structure, and bishop to a3. Impressive stuff, honestly, by the engine here. I'm not surprised at all. Bishop b2 and castles, and now Chris plays a horrendous move. It's d4, simply just allowing c3 and just the complete destruction of his center here. And in fact, d takes c3, and now Chris no longer has any advantage. And in fact, Red Mouse plays the correct move, knight takes c3. Obviously, the more practical approach is taking the pawn, so you keep the pawns attacked and everything. But Red Mouse goes for an imbalanced position with an isolated pawn. Very interesting stuff. b6. b6 is completely pointless. It does absolutely nothing. It only defends your c-pawn, which was not attacked at all, and it's defended twice. But okay, b6 completely destroying the light squares. Knight e5 and knight takes e5, simple stuff. We're trading pieces. This is all Chris wants, is a draw to end this game and go to the finals. Now, queen d2 is massively complex, so if you take this, obviously, you get hit with one of these bad boys, and then, you go here. Okay, fantastic. So what if they counterattack you? Well, now you actually need to go back and defend your bishop, but queen d8 indeed happens. The problem with queen d8 is that rook d1 is a little strong. And now you're going to go queen e8, and stuff isn't looking that great here. However, after queen g3, now stuff is amazing, because now black has back some of the advantage. Knight to h5 attacking the queen g4. And simply loses to the simple f5. But as you guessed it, this is a low elo semifinals, which means it's not going to happen instead of g6. f5 attacks and defends at the same time. That does not get played. g6, which is just horrendous. I mean, holy jeez. Not only do you not see the fork, you also make your intentions clear to the opponent, and also open up the dark squares, which could allow for a potential, like, I don't know, queen g5, queen h6, and mate idea. It's really bad. Don't weaken your dark squares like this, especially when you can win material that doesn't weaken you at all. g6 and rook f2 e1, simply reblundering the fork, and here it is, f5. Now knight to d6, and the best move is to take the queen and go for this endgame. Don't understand why we took with that rook, why we can take with the a rook, but okay, I don't make the rules here. Alright, rook takes a fade, and simply just, hopping to defend. Obviously, the better move is this, which, you trade, and you trade again, and even though you lose this, you can checkmate your opponent. That's pretty sweet. That does not get spotted. King f7, fine. h3, attacking the pawns. And for some reason, Red Mouse not taking back immediately, instead of opting to lose another pawn, and then activate the king, fine. Knight goes to g7, and actually, Chris was blundered. Simple tactic, a bishop takes, king takes, and rook takes. And this endgame is still winning by a lot. It's 3 versus 5. There's a 3-on-2 and a 2-on-1, and the kings are on the 2-on-1, which means the game will be decided there. So yeah, really not great stuff. Still winning, but you didn't have to blunder like that. But rook h3, that does not get spotted. In fact, we have the knight going to h5. That's the best move, by the way, getting out of the way. I'm surprised that Chris immediately saw it after playing the move, which is impressive. Rook d3. Knight f4 check, blundering a fork, and that's simply just conversion. Nothing wrong with the game. It's just converting the advantage and also losing a rook. What the fuck are we doing here? It's fine. You could always, pin this. You can always pin this and, don't lose anything, but fine. Bishop d6, king f7. We lose the rook, but it's rook and bishop versus rook with 2 extra pawns. Completely winning still. And rook a7, the very ugly but very important rook a8. It has to happen. And simply just, Chris converting the game. There's nothing to talk about here. And, Red Mouse had to lose a rook here, apparently. And Chris going for the disrespectful rook under promotion. Completely undeserved, but it makes me smile every day. Look at how many checkmates there are here. There's mates everywhere on the board, but here it is. He makes a third rook as well. I mean, he is mad. He wants that disrespect, and here it is, rook a1 check. Beautiful. That was Chris's games to make it to the finals. Let's go look at the next victim, specimen. Okay, so now we have Tito or Kai with the black pieces versus Lemons actual with the white pieces. The dude with, the Lemons profile picture was actually pretty promising. But yeah, we're gonna see. Standard looking beginner opening stuff. The Scots game. This variation, which I've never seen in my life. This name. Okay. Now it's back to Scots. And in this position, actually, black is messed up. And leaving the queen out like this is not that great in the Scots because you can't really attack it and win some time. c5 looks good, but, the queen just moves and you can't really push for d5, so it's just pointless. Queen f6 and not the aggressive, pawn pushing. We have queen takes f6 immediately bailing out to this endgame, which simply is just boring. There's nothing going on here at all. There's nothing to talk about. Now there's something to talk about, in fact. Now, what you need to do here is probably like one of these two moves. Don't really allow them to destroy your pawns like that. I mean, yeah, you do get the bishop here, but that's going to be a little ugly to defend, especially for a low-elo player who is 900. Okay. Simple little f3. Fine, bishop d3 is also not bad. Okay. Being a little too much hope chess there, buddy. A little too much hope chess. Alright, bishop g5, discovered attack. The idea is to make them retreat, but d takes c5, they forgot that existed, and now Lemon has lost a pawn. And in fact, not only do they lose a pawn, they also lose a bishop, and now the entire game, and now they're completely losing, and, you can probably expect what happened in the game. They played until checkmate, here. Somewhere. Yeah, they literally played until checkmate, nothing happened, they just lost. Next game. Alright, now Kai's playing with white pieces and Lemon's actually with the black piece. Let's begin. d4, d5, bishop f4. I hate this thing with all my life. The London shit stem, as I like to call it. Obviously, I don't mean, it's not a bad opening. I just kind of hate it. I don't like it. Okay, it's too dry for me. It's just not my style. The idea is to go e3, c3, knight f3, or c4 or something, and just simply get some quick, easy development moves while your opponent is stuck thinking. Knight to c6 is actually one of the worst ways to play against the London system, believe it or not. Knight f6, and bishop d3. And you can always build up for c4 here. Not a bad thing. The London system is very flexible for beginner players. A lot of the time against London systems, they like to play a lot of, knight f6 and c5 business, gambits type shit. And knight to c6, and there's this line where you go like e5. There's also this queen check line, and then you can start at the center. You can go here. These lines are very complex for London players. But yeah, okay, we just have a standard little London system, knight f3, which is kind of, impressive. And now this, and I mean, simple stuff really, c3, and queen goes here. And obviously you probably have to trade, but you don't trade. In fact, you set up a trap. That trap does not get taken, and you build up a nice little f4 advantage. But before you do that, you actually decide to just win the pawn straight up. I mean, come on. Okay, okay. So now we castle. So we're gonna have an opposite side castling game. Black is currently down a pawn, but white structure is a little bit damaged, and also it's opposite side castling, which means anything can happen. Queen e7 and queen to b3, simply threatening a checkmate, or a very massive attack on the black king. c6, that blocks it, thank God. g4, attacking the bishop. You should, come on. I mean, yeah, it's the top edge move, but should you really be attacking on the side that you're going to be attacked? Come on. g4, bishop g6, bishop g2. Fine. Now, here goes all your advantage. All you had to do was queen a4, which is just, this very magical force of a trade. And after this move, you got rook d1 and giving up the pawn for like counterplay. Yeah, that's why you lost all the advantage right away. Because now, if rook d2 happens to come, you actually are not fast enough with the threat, and black has actually time to double up the rooks and start going h4, h5, h4, and destroying you. So h5 instead. Okay, fine. We don't hate that. That's an attack indeed. Rook a d1 and h takes g4, and unfortunately, now you're kind of losing a little bit here. It's kind of unfortunate how this doesn't work, because you simply trade down everything apparently here. And rook d1, queen h4, and ladies and gentlemen, black has blundered. The very, very simple, not at all, rook here. Should you take this rook, you will get destroyed, first of all. If you try to make me, you get baited, so you need to start sacking your queen like a madman. You need to start sacking your pawns, and sacking your rook, and sacking your bishop, and after all of this is done, you will get mated. Very impressive. Now, if you do not take the rook and go for b5, obviously you will probably still get destroyed. Now, if you take the rook, I still destroy with the same mate idea, so you need to actually do this, and now, I mean, it's just over. It's still over for black here. But h takes g4, that does not get spotted. h takes g4 unfortunately blunders the game to a draw, because you still can do this. And if you're taken, it's the same checkmate pattern. However, unfortunately, rook d4 was played, and rook d4 is not enough. We know why it's not enough, because of queen e2. And now, you're crisscrossed from every side. Rook d1, but that's simply a fork. And queen a3, queen takes d1, bishop f1, bishop e4. This was a little bit more of a thematic approach, but fine. There's also this thematic approach of taking and taking and check. I mean, this is so thematic. Bishop e4, queen takes e7, rook h1 checkmate. Are you kidding me? That is unbelievable jack shit. And they have to play another game because they are tied. It's a best of 2. Let's go to the next one. Alright, we have the initial colors we had last game. We have Tito with the black pieces versus Lemon Zaxel with white pieces. And Tito did not learn his lesson. JK, he learned his lesson of, not trading every single piece in the Scots. But bishop b3, okay, this is all classic stuff. Queen f6. Okay, c3. Standard beginner shit so far, knight takes d4. Now, knight takes d4 surprisingly is completely not that great, because you can just take with the pawn and this. And if you take again, then this looks really nasty for black. But bishop takes d4 instead, and after all this, I mean, still, it's the same thing. But you don't have, pieces out. Black has a piece out. d6, and knight to c3. 97, bishop c4, castles. Okay, so far so good. Normal position, looks like we're going for the blitz tiebreaks, but when you're playing on the low elo, anything can happen, really, anything can happen. Bishop e6. Alright, now you can push your pawn and completely waste the tempo for your opponent, but bishop takes e6. Fine, we do not hate it. Takes with the pawn. That's interesting stuff here. Opening up the F file. Okay, I like that sense of awareness. F4. Going for it. Okay. Going for E5 here. D5. E5. Crazy stuff. Queen H6 attacking the pawn. Queen G4 defending the pawn. But the better defending move, actually, believe it or not, is this. Because after this comes, which is the major threat, you can just go here. Apparently now, if you allow this and you do the same thing, there is this. And if you, let's say, defend with rook, well, then there's this. So that's the reason why Queen F3 is just slightly better than the Queen G4 move. And Knight F5 doesn't in fact happen. Knight to E2. And exactly the pattern that I just showed you happens in the game. Knight E3, Queen takes E6, Queen takes E6. Yeah, I did not show you the full hanging of a queen, by the way. Okay, and the rest of the game is simply just, white converting the advantage, and, black converting the advantage, white has no advantage, and this is simply just a nice little steamroll, sacking the rook, making the queen, and checkmate the opponent with the queen. It would really be nice if we saw, 4 knights, but we didn't see that. A little bit of an L there, it's fine. Now we can finally move on to the finals between Chris and Kai. Alright, so we have the finals. Chris with the black pieces versus Tito, or Kai, whatever you want to call him, with the white pieces. Alright, let's see. It's a best of 2. Let the best low elo player win. D4, Knight F6. Okay. Off to a good start. No longer a good start. Okay, I'm joking, obviously. Tito, if you're watching this, I know you're a loyal subscriber. If you're watching this, please don't switch your openings because I'm just trash talking to London. It's not my style. You can play an opening you want with no, getting forbidden. It's okay. I'm just gonna complain about it because that's the best thing you can do as a content creator. Okay, so we have a transposition to a perk defense. Chris tried to play King's Indian, but somehow it turned out to be a perk. And in the perk defense, it's basically the King's Indian with E4, and it's more risky and a little bit more refuted. Just a little bit more. The point is you're giving up a lot of the center, and in E4 it's a little bit more sharp than, D4 positions. That's the point. Knight F3, now we have the classical, which by the sounds of it is probably really old. Castles, bishop c4, bishop g4, okay, normal stuff. H3, asking the bishop a question. Trading it off immediately, fine, we have a very equal position. Knight d7, e5, and knight h5. There we go, attacking the bishop, deciding what to do with it. Tito decides to castle. Okay, fine. Chris takes the bishop, and now, after this simplification, white is down the pawn. It's okay, because it's opposite side castling, so maybe he could generate some sort of attack. The problem is, if you do go and take that b-pawn, you lose instantly because there's this, then there is taking the knight. You cannot take because you get pinned, and you need to go back and play an entire endgame down a piece, so that's not great. So that's why Chris could have avoided, playing c6 to defend the b-pawn. Okay, fine. Alright. Knight e4. Okay, moving the knight to the center. It's minus 1.2 because you can just double up on the diagonal. Or you can just develop a queen because white is refusing to develop any pieces. And also you can always just, go for a quick b5 and a5, and suddenly white's attack is just not fast enough. There are chances that you can get fast enough, but they're very vague. And yeah, there are sacrificial ideas here and there, but really you're not going to simplify to something like this. It's really not that easy to play. But maybe black could hypothetically model this because it's still kind of hard and complicated. But everything is there on the table. King g7, however, for some unknown reason. Okay, so it's better to just, get aggressive if your opponent does nothing. But instead, King g7, fine, we're wasting time. In an opposite side castling game where time is of the essence, like g4 Could happen at any moment. Any moment, they can go g4 and h4 and h5 and g5. Like, Chris is wasting time. Knight to c5. It's okay. Tito just wants to attack the knight, which is pinned and not very easy to defend. There's only one way to defend it that's actually good. It's queen to b6, threatening a checkmate. Or simply just a huge attack. I mean, this is just kind of huge for black to deal with. Oh, that's a mouse slip. Because this pin comes in, then after you move out, you can actually go check, and it's not a great position looking wise. It's really FC better positions, but okay. Knight to d3 going all the way back. In fact, actually, queen to b6 was played, and knight to d3 to defend was the move chosen. The engine wants this entire sequence that I just showed you if you don't taking the knight. But Tito went back, which is okay. And sorry for flipping the phone. Sorry about that. Okay. Let's continue. Unfortunately, rook at d8 and simply knight takes c5 looks like a good move. I mean, obviously, still it's kind of stupid to lose that bishop to fine. Looks like a good move, but unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, it's not really great. It's not really great because there's this move in f6. Pawn is hanging. Rook trading coming, and the attack is just nowhere to be found for white. And black, surprisingly, has everything they need. I dropped my little ear thing. I don't know why. Mic thingy. I don't know how I managed to do that, but okay, that's embarrassing. But yeah. Knight takes c4. Queen takes c4, and unfortunately, this gentleman, it's not great. Because white simply does not have the compensation for attacking. Queen c4 just f6 for, I don't know what f6 does. I mean, you can always just give a check. Trade rooks, go rook here. I don't know, do something else, but okay, f6 weakening up the king. The best move, surprisingly, is this. Attacking the pawn. Obviously, for obvious reasons. h4, though, and e5. So that was the plan of, f6. h5, okay, going for it. But g5, unfortunately, is not the best move. The best move after h5 is actually queen trade. Takes, and actually, black has the pawn advantage, no more queens, and black is up like 2 pawns. And it doesn't matter that the structure is this bad, you can always push them down. g5 doesn't cut it, though. Because you can push the pawn and maybe get an advantage. And as you can see here, king g6, the move that Chris played, actually cost him the entire game because of queen h5, king here, and you pin the queen and you win it. Are you kidding? You're shitting. You're just straight up shitting. I mean, come on. And if this doesn't work, you just go here. I mean, are you absolutely shitting me? I mean, Chris, come on. But unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, Tito was just tilting and queen e4 check was the move played, and unfortunately for that, now it's game over. Now it's no longer game over. Now white simply gets a free pawn on h7, and gets an outside pass pawn while 3 pass pawns are rolling down the board. That's really impressive. King e6, and it's actually white who has the advantage, because if queen takes b7, and after this, for example, you go here. It's bananas how the game has turned around. But rook takes the 8. Trading down pieces for no reason. Little advice. If you don't have to, do not trade with rooks. Especially when there can be free pawns. What I think happened is he was afraid of queen takes g2 and forgot that the rook was defended by the other rook, and I don't know. I actually don't know what happened and what went wrong here, so I can't really quite tell. But I can tell you they don't care. Rook takes d8, and this is just a drawn end game unless you do that, and you're lost. What you had to do is actually king to c1, losing that pawn, parting ways with that to go rook c1 and defend all your pawns, and maybe pray to a divine power that you win this endgame via the h pawn. Because trust me, this looks terrifying. But unfortunately, rook d1 is simply the final nail in the coffin for this game because of queen e3 check, blocking the rook, and you can take with check and give a mate. Absolutely unbelievable shit. And Chris, completely undeserving, wins the match. And we go on to the second game. Okay, let's begin. Chris with the white pieces versus Tito with the black pieces. Let's begin. E4, E5 with a Vienna F6. Now, F6 in my experience is not great. First of all, the light squares are completely weakened and you can get hit from both directions. Second of all, the knight cannot go to f6, which is a natural square. Third of all, the king is weak. Fourth of all, you can always like develop another piece or take or I don't know d6, something. But f6 is very weakening, and there could be tactical opportunities arriving there because the king is weak. And as you can see later down the line, this bishop on c4 is actually going to be very strong because it's going to put a lot of pressure on the black because they can't castle that way, which is why a +1. D6 and knight a4. You don't have to immediately take this bishop, so d3, knight goes to e7. Now we take the bishop and go d4. Okay, we could have also just immediately went d4, like after taking, and there you can go d4. I guess he just liked the slow play. Maybe he didn't like the fact that, after this, there's like this. I don't know. I don't know what he didn't like. Chris, fine. You can blame you one. I'm just here to make fun of you. I'm joking. I'm just joking, okay? We're friends in real life, but they can, joke about it a little bit on video. Joke about it a little bit. Can joke about it. Knight takes b6, a takes b6, and d4. E takes, knight takes, knight takes. Oh, I'm sorry, not knight takes d4, which is the natural thing to do in this position, but actually rook a4, which I do not understand in the life of me what it does. The only possible explanation I can give is g3 and sacking the rook for a 4-point bishop. That's all I can understand. But is it really that annoying to have to sack a 5-point piece for a 3-point piece? That's technically a bit more in value because it's taking over all the light squares? Maybe. That's a debate for another day. Okay, but rook a4 and Chris goes bishop b5. Now, any normal human being on this planet simply moves the rook back, accepts the L, and maybe makes a draw in the probably silliest move order I've ever seen possible. Like this. But this is low elo, so if I had to guess, probably something else happened. I don't know, maybe they went here. I wish. Rook takes d4. And what they probably thought was after queen takes, they can take back with the knight, but forgot they're pinned. So now Tito is just down a rook for the rest of the game. Also, c5 is c5 is not great. Also, I went a little bit I don't know what's going on here. c5 is not that great because you want to keep your pawns defended because you're down material, but fine, you can do anything you want. Yeah, and queen e7, queen e3 is so pointless. I mean, go castle already. Get your king out of the center. You don't want to endanger yourself. But fine, queen e3. You want to attack a pony, then go back here. And the better move is c3 to just disallow the knight to get into your position. You really don't want that annoying knight. But fine. You are the one playing the game. Okay, queen to c7, and finally, we do not castle, we give a check, fine, we give a check and c3, okay, what we just said, f5 comes, you do not care, you can straight up just take the pawn, doesn't matter, but castle straight up, perfect move, and f takes, and queen takes, and unfortunately, black does not raise enough counterplay, against, White's overwhelming lead in material of up rook for a bishop, for a knight, I'm sorry. That's even worse, actually. Especially in this position, because the bishops are really powerful. Yeah, bishop e4, right? But you just go back and you can trade, and really it's not looking, you can take that, it doesn't matter, and you go here. Yes, that's a fork, but you just defend everything and take like a pawn. a4, fine, doesn't matter. And fortunately, Tito sacrifices his queen for the memes and proceeds to lose the rest of the game. And with the main one coming, resigned. Wow! That's unbelievably impressive. That's like the lamest like ending to a final I've ever seen. Because it just ended with like a rook blunder from move 10. Yeah, it's okay. Stretching a little bit. It's okay. We all have bad days, especially in the finals. I sure shit had a really bad one in the mid-elo, second season. Unfortunately, Tito did not win, but Chris, my boy Chris, oh yeah, the guy was rooting the entire time. I'm not saying this sarcastically, I actually did quite a little bit. Despite having severe aneurysms, I actually managed to see him become the low elo champion of the League Cup. Server, props to him, congratulations to him and to the entire grid for playing this out, and to the committee for organizing this free content farm they've given me every 3 months. Anyway, Hilo is probably, hopefully, next 4 weeks from now. But I'm not really sure because it's like a group of 8 unpaid people, so who knows when it's gonna come out. Anyway, that's it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.